Today, I'm going to tell you about the highly addictive substance that's in your kitchen right now. And trust me, I was shocked when I learned how addictive it was and realized that I had been using it daily. Now, I'm talking about sugar. And before you click off, let me explain myself. You see, in university, I learned that researchers were able to get rats to respond to sugar more than they were able to get them to respond to that other white substance that you guys all know what I'm talking about. And they were able to prove that sugar lights up the same part of the brain that alcohol and drugs do. And you won't believe it, but as quickly as I learned that piece of information, I put it down. And I'm not even sure why I did that. It's almost like they tell me this life-changing piece of information that I didn't know what to do with. And it wasn't until 3 years ago that it really hit me how important it was that the part of our brain that responds to substances is also responding to sugar. And that means that the scientists were really trying to tell us that maybe we shouldn't be having so much sugar. And it also means for me that all the times that I thought I liked this substance, did I really like it? Or was I just letting myself go down a rabbit hole that I didn't even know I was going down? I think that for a lot of us, we don't realize how important it is that we eat lots of sugar. So Merriam-Webster defines addiction as a compulsive, chronic, physiological or psychological need for a habit-forming substance, behavior, or activity having harmful physical and psychological, social effects, and typically causing well-defined symptoms, which when you withdraw it, so it could be anxiety, irritability, nausea, and the list goes on and on. Let's look at this picture for a second. Compulsive and chronic, right? That's a need for a habit-forming substance is compulsive and chronic. I have to have it, right? That jonesing, that fact that when I was eating a lot of sugar, I left my house on occasion to go and get chocolate. And I'm not proud to say that, but when I look back on it, the fact that I would go out of my way on my way to school, eventually to work, to stop at a dépanneur, which is a corner store here in Montreal, to stop there to buy chocolate. It doesn't make sense unless I needed to have it, right? Because I risked being late for school, I risked being late for work. I was having chocolate on a daily basis. And if there wasn't chocolate around, well, then what did I do? I would eat something else, right? I would eat some cookies, chocolate chip if possible. I would eat some ice cream. So I know, and I've always known that I had a draw towards chocolate. What I didn't realize, or at least allow myself to look at clearly, was how often it was when there wasn't chocolate around, I still engaged by allowing myself to have some other form of sweet something. And so therefore, I'm still getting that sugar hit. And if I'm still getting the sugar hit, I'm still being impacted. There's harmful physical, psychological, and social effects when we're talking about an addiction. Okay, what about the weight gain? What about the PCOS, the diabetes, the plaquing of the arteries, the inflammation, the metabolic syndrome? What about the being disgusted by my weight, being ashamed of going out, being ashamed to go shopping to buy clothing, right? Of talking bad to myself, the psychological implications, right? And of course, there's all the social implications because now I'm not going out to eat with people because I'm afraid to eat in front of them because they're going to say that, oh, look at her, look how she's, right? And they're going to judge me. Now I might be avoiding dating. I might be avoiding all kinds of social situations because I don't want to be the center of attention because I think the only reason people are looking at me is because I'm overweight. The psychological, social, and physical negative repercussions are present when we're talking about overeating sugar. Now, we also have those withdrawal symptoms that I mentioned earlier, that if you don't have it, you can become anxious, you can become irritable. I know for myself, I had a massive headache when I tried to stop eating sugar. I was overheating. I was fixated on finding and getting, food in general, because I wanted pizza, I wanted chocolate. My brain was just constantly telling me that I was hungry. The third and fourth day that I tried to put sugar down, I was just focused on getting more food. I had to overcome this idea that I should be eating, even though I knew I just had a great meal. I had a large meal. There's no way I could have been hungry because I only ate maybe an hour or so ago, but my body is pushing me. That's not because I was hungry. That's because of my addiction that I had to sugar, pushing me to go get food. And these are the things that if we don't understand what's happening, right? Most people are not aware because they haven't checked, right? So this not me attitude that I have, right? We don't know that we're addicted to sugar because we haven't ever really tried to not have all the sugar that we have. We've not tried to put sugar down. Have you ever tried to not have sugar in your day? So to have 20 grams of carbs or less. Have you ever tried to have a day where you had 0 carbs? And it's not just a day. That's the thing that's tricky too. Most people who are addicted to something can get through a day without having it. It's not a comfortable day, but we can get through a day without having it. It's when you try to get through a week, a month, a year. That's when you notice it, because that's when you're really giving your body the chance to get into that stage where it's doing the withdrawal symptoms and whatever. Right? And then once we get into that stage, that's when we start to see how we were impacted by overeating sugar. And there's so many avenues that we can go down to actually feed our sugar addiction, right? It's rare that we go without. Like I said, for me, my go-to was chocolate. But then if I didn't have chocolate, I could have cookies, I could have ice cream. But guess what? I could also go for pizza. Yes, pizza's high in sugar. And so are French fries. And so is rice. And so is pasta. So many of the healthy things, fruit, all the healthy things that we go after when we're trying to improve our health, we don't realize that they're actually high in sugar. And so am I really helping myself? Am I saving myself something when I eat these things? So there's so many different ways that we can indulge that addiction, right? And here's the worst part. This journey that we're on of becoming addicted to sugar starts before we have a choice about the foods we eat. Our parents are told to give us cereals as a starter food. And I feel like we're going back now to this. Scientists are well aware that carbohydrates cause us to engage that part of the brain, but yet doctors are telling us that the first food we should give our child is cereal, which is sugar. And then we graduate them quickly to fruits and vegetables, but not the low glycemic fruits and vegetables, right? They're getting carrots, they're getting apples, right? They're getting all kinds of fruits and vegetables that are, I'm not even talking about the fact that there's fructose in these fruits and vegetables at this moment in time. I'm just talking about the carb count. It's surprising to me that we feed our growing children carb-heavy foods, despite the fact that if you ask any doctor, what does it take to grow a healthy body? They tell you healthy protein and healthy fats make up our structure. Our structure is not made up of carbohydrates. So when I see that we're feeding our children carb-heavy foods, there's a big question mark of why do we do that? And I don't really know. But children, we know that they need to eat those vegetables. And so if you talk about what vegetables most children eat, well, according to what I looked up, the typical vegetable on a child's plate is French fries. And the side of ketchup is considered a vegetable. We ask our children to eat fruit, and then we'll turn around and allow their fruit to be these canned, extra sweet, because There's high fructose corn syrup added to a lot of these canned fruits. We'll give our children cereal for breakfast. Oh, and let's not forget those granola bars that we love to give them as a snack. And I feel like one of the things that we're having a hard time to really let ourselves understand is that granola bars and these, they're not healthy. They have the same sugar content as cookies. But we see these foods as acceptable for our children to have. We're teaching our children from as early an age as before they can even speak to prioritize sugar over protein and fat that they need to build their body, right? And cookies as a snack or a granola bar as a snack, it's not changing the fact that those cookies on that screen have the sugar content that would, like the sugar content of everything else on that screen rivals the cookies. We don't know we're addicted because we've always been addicted, right? So putting sugar down was difficult. As I mentioned before, I lived 2 extremely hard days of withdrawal and then a few uncomfortable days. And if I hadn't lived those days of discomfort and withdrawal symptoms, and I know what withdrawal symptoms are because I've worked with some people who had to give up alcohol and had to give up drugs, and I know what they went through. So it's not like I didn't know what I was dealing with when it was happening to me. If I hadn't lived that, I don't think I would have realized that I was actually addicted to sugar because, again, I hadn't tried to stop it. All that means is that it isn't necessarily just putting down processed sugar that's going to help us, right? There have been lots of times that I put down processed sugars, but because I was still eating bread and pasta and rice and potatoes and carrots and pizza and grains, I was still eating cereal, I didn't realize that I hadn't solved the problem. I didn't realize that those foods had so much carbohydrate in them that when I put down cookies and chips and ice cream and all that stuff, which I'd done before, and I've never been a large eater of fruit, so that wasn't the issue. It was all the quote-unquote healthy foods that I was eating that was causing my problem. And it wasn't until I truly allowed myself to put them down that I started to see that, in fact, the amount of carbohydrate that I was eating was still at the range of 350-ish grams of carbs every single day. And when I went above, if I did on the occasion, because don't forget, we're allowed to have treats, right? It's normal for us to have treats. We can't expect children to not have treats. And well, if we're going to feed our kids a treat, of course, we're going to have a treat at the same time. And when I would allow myself to sometimes have chocolate or cookies or whatever, now I'm way over the amount of carbohydrate. That's 300. I was getting to 400, 500. So, one fun eat out meal at a fast food restaurant on top of the normal breakfast and lunch that you're having, one fun dessert, which at a restaurant is gigantic, throws so much carbohydrate into you that it ruins any of the positive work you had done before that if you were trying to be moderate. And even when we're trying to be moderate, we didn't put down the rice, the potatoes, right? So I want us to really understand that we've been putting this addictive substance called sugar, and it's a substance. We should stop calling this food. It's an addictive substance. We've been putting it in our food for so long, we can't even taste the sweet in the things that we're eating. I was so shocked when I went back and had some cashews and realized how sweet they were tasting to me, because they did taste sweet, because they are sweet. And I haven't had rice or potatoes or any of those things in over 2 years, but I wonder if at some point far into the future, I might taste one of them just to see, does it taste sweet to me now? I'm not tempted by that right now. I don't know if I'll ever be tempted by it, but I feel like there's a curiosity in me that would want to do it. At this moment in time, though, I'm not curious enough. I want to rebuild this structure as healthily as I can. Today's comment is coming from Jenny Jones. It says that sugar addiction is so very real. I am in the struggle of reducing my carb intake. My goal right now is to get between 50 and 75 and get consistent with that before I start to move towards 20 or less a day. I crave sweets. I feel if I tried to cut it cold turkey, I would fail. So my plan is to make a slow and steady progress at decreasing the amount that I consume. As much as I believe that that's a great idea, I think we all need to follow our knowledge of ourselves. And if you know that you would struggle to go cold turkey, do what you're doing. I want to point out, though, at some point, you're going to get to a level where you're just going to have to do the 20 or less. How close to it will you get before that's what you're able to do? I don't know. So I know for myself, I did cold turkey because I knew if I tried to do what you're talking about, I would have had a hard time, because I know that I would have wanted to eat. And so when I eat a little bit of something, and full transparency here, I've already gotten myself down to 20 grams of carbs or less when I realized the cashew issue. And part of the reason I realized the cashew issue is that I'd be doing amazing and then allow myself to have some cashews and overeat on my day. And now I'm in pain next day and whatever because I've gone over my 20 grams. And it was happening because of the cashews. So I do feel that you're probably going to have at some moment the need to just go to less than 20. For those of you who jumped in and just cut it all out like I did, you do live 1 or 2 days, 2 or 3 days in of ouch, where you're living those withdrawal symptoms. But the good part is that for me, I think living those withdrawal symptoms really helped me to understand that I didn't want to reintroduce sugar into my life and then have to cycle in and out of that, because every time you allow it back into your life, when you take it out of your life, you're going to have to go through those withdrawal symptoms again. That's part of the reason that you hear a lot of people talking about having keto flu that lasts months. It's not the keto flu lasts months. It's because they're cycling in and out of being in ketosis. And every time you go out to get back in, they're going through those symptoms again. So I would really encourage you, whichever way that you choose, just really pay attention and make sure that you do things the way that is the most likely to lead to your success. I'm just really happy that I had a chance to talk with you guys today. We've been a little long, so that's 12:48. So I'm glad that you guys were able to stick around and chat with me. I love making these videos for you wellness warriors. I really do. And I'm going to be back with a video on Thursday, an upload. And then next Monday at 11:15, I'll be back to talk with you again. Check the description. I have some links to videos on how to do keto in a healthy way for anybody who happens to be new. Love making these videos for you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week.